Hey everyone, welcome back to Men Need to Be Heard, the channel where we talk about the issues that men and boys face in today's modern society. My name is Dan, and today I want to talk to you about an issue that is a hot button topic, one often brought up by men in discussions about divorce. What is it? Alimony. Few things, if any, raise the ire of men more than being forced to pay alimony to their ex-wives. Exes who, more often than not, chose to walk away from the marriage and file for divorce, and who, in the end, are getting handsomely rewarded for doing so. So I thought it would be interesting to delve into that a bit and give the man's perspective on alimony. So I invite you to stick around because today, we're not only breaking down why the concept of alimony is outdated, but also, wait for it, why it is in fact anti-woman. Yep, you heard that right. Anti-woman. So first, I guess we should answer, what exactly is alimony? Short and sweet, the answer is that it's financial support one spouse pays to another after a divorce. And one of the reasons it's such a hot-button topic, especially among men, is how unfair it is, especially in times when most women have careers of their own. The fact is, we're now living in 2025, not 1955. And in today's society, where gender roles have evolved and women are thriving as independent contributors, why does the outdated concept of alimony still persist? Why does it even exist at all? First, a little history. Alimony laws date back to a time when women largely stayed home taking care of the house and raising the children. They didn't have jobs or careers except maybe a small part-time one or a cottage industry type of business that they ran out of the home, and thus didn't have the ability to take care of themselves after a divorce. Thus, divorce often meant financial ruin for women, and I'd argue rightfully so, courts stepped in to ensure men continued to support them. But to borrow a phrase, that was long, long ago and far, far away. Fast forward to today, and women are earning college degrees in far higher numbers than men. They're making more money than ever, and in many cases, more money than their husbands. They have careers, are running companies, and by their own admission, have declared their independence. I mean, they're running around by the millions, telling everyone that will listen that they don't need no man and how strong and independent they are. So knowing all that, why are we still clinging to a system designed for an era that no longer exists? Let's be real. Overwhelmingly, in most modern relationships, both partners contribute financially. Things have actually gotten to the point that largely it's a requirement for both to work in order to pay the bills or even survive. Yet when marriages end, the courts often assume men should continue footing the bill, even when 80 to 90% of the time, it's the woman who is forcing the divorce onto the man. To put it another way, she wants to break the marital contract, the promise that she made, and get paid for doing so. And why do the courts continue to award alimony? What is their justification? Largely, it's so she can maintain her standard of living. His? Who cares? It's hers and only hers that matters. But here's the kicker and why it's actually an anti-woman double standard. Because if women are running around as a whole claiming they don't need no man, then why does the legal system continue to assume they do? Frankly, I, for one, think it's a slap in the face to all women have fought for, to women's independence, to assume that they are incapable of taking care of themselves and thus need a man to do it for them. Not to mention the unfair burden it places on men. Men who didn't want the divorce in the first place. Let's look at a real-life scenario, one a man I spoke to recently relayed to me, and also one that really isn't that far out of the norm. It's actually pretty common. Let's call the man John. John is a mid-level manager who makes about $120,000 a year. He was married for 10 years to a woman Let's call her Emily. Emily has been a teacher for about 10 years in the local school district and has tenure, so she's been doing quite well for herself, but only made about $60,000 a year. Yet despite the fact that both worked full-time, both were in their mid-30s with successful careers, John was ordered to pay Emily almost $25,000 a year in alimony. Why? Well, it wasn't because Emily was going to starve to death if he didn't. I think we can all agree she could manage to survive on her salary, can't we? Well, apparently it wasn't about the food or clothing or having a roof over her head. Oh no, my friends, it was anything but. Because it was so ordered by the judge that John pay Emily about a quarter of his salary each year so that she could continue to maintain her lifestyle after the divorce. Basically, if you look at it, he awarded enough alimony to her so that in the end, Emily earned the same amount of money each year that John did, even though it was John who was the one working to earn most of it. A divorce, by the way, that she initiated because, as John said, she wasn't happy and didn't want to bother to work on the marriage. In the end, she got the house, the new car, 50% of their savings, and a decent chunk of John's salary moving forward. He also was ordered to pay half the credit card debt, a pretty sizable number, which was largely due to Emily buying extravagant clothing and makeup. John, meanwhile, was downsized to a tiny apartment and actually ended up being forced to pick up a second job to cover the payments he was sending to Emily to ensure she kept the lifestyle to which she had become accustomed. Is that fairness or is it punishment? And remember, it was Emily who filed for the divorce, just as is the case in 80 to 90% of the times where the divorce is initiated by the woman. And let's not forget also, it wasn't due to abuse or infidelity, or even that John was a bad husband. It was solely because Emily was unhappy, which again is one of the biggest reasons women cite for filing for a divorce. Far more so than abuse or infidelity. Which begs the question, why? Why are women doing that? And the answer is because we as a society have intentionally or unintentionally incentivized women to divorce, and alimony is one of the biggest incentives there is. As I said, alimony is in fact anti-woman. And here's why. Quite simply, it assumes women can't take care of themselves. It says you need a man's financial help in order to thrive, in order to survive. That's not empowerment, it's infantilization. And it not only undermines the very progress women have fought for, it spits in the face of it. Fortunately, some states are waking up. Florida, for example, recently passed laws limiting permanent alimony. And New Jersey is considering similar reforms. And to be fair, yes, there are cases where alimony is justified for a short period of time, such as when the wife has stayed home to take care of the children. But permanent alimony, or basing it on taking care of the woman's entire needs when she's more than capable of getting a job to handle some of the load, is beyond absurd in this day and age. The courts and the laws need to be updated and changed to recognize that gender roles have shifted, and that women are more than capable of rebuilding their lives, and that men shouldn't be punished for a marriage ending, especially when more often than not, it's not their choice to end it. So what are some solutions? Well, here's a few that I think we should consider. First off, we need to ensure equal responsibility when it comes to a divorce. Both parties should leave the marriage with financial independence and be responsible to take care of their own needs. As I said earlier, except in rare cases where one has sacrificed their career to care for the children. But even then, alimony should be temporary, capped at most 2 to 4 years, which gives the receiver more than enough time to re-enter the workforce or get an education which will enable them to do so. We also need to challenge the existing gender norms. It's time to ditch the notion that men must always be providers. We need to recognize that it is not men's jobs, to sacrifice themselves for women. Women, by their own words, say they can and do earn their own income, and the laws in the courts should reflect that reality. We also need to reform the law. More states need to follow Florida's lead. Permanent alimony belongs in the history books, should only be awarded in extreme cases where the recipient is truly unable to re-enter the workforce. Alimony, like typewriters or black and white TV, is a relic of the past and belongs in the dustbin along with those things. It doesn't reflect the realities of modern relationships, and it does a disservice to both men and women. It's actually sexist against women in its presumptions, both under the law and in the courts. And it's time for laws to change, for fairness to prevail, so that everyone can move forward on an equal footing. The reality is, well over half of all marriages end up in divorce, and it's women who are largely choosing to end the marriages, not men. It's time that we stopped punishing men, and that we acknowledge that they too have a right to a standard of living, not just one of subsistence, if that even. It's about equality, and isn't that what we're all claiming we're fighting for? So what do you think? Should we say goodbye to alimony for good? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more thought-provoking discussions on the issues that men and boys face in today's modern society. Till next time.